Welcome to the Embracing Race podcast. All episodes were recorded in advance, so don't be alarmed if the timeline seems a little bit cattywampus.
So anyway, we're going to get started. And Courageous Rebel, we're going to talk about that.
We shall talk about that.
All right, we just changing names and stuff. All right, well, thank you all for joining us. This is Embracing Race Conversations with Truth and Intention. I am your host, Shawnee. I want to go with just a one name moniker because that's how I'm feeling.
Do it.
My pronouns are she, her. And Jessie, introduce yourself.
I'm Jessie Littlejohn. I am not a one-name moniker. I'm not cool enough for that. And my pronouns are they, them. And D'Angelo, we are so excited to have you today. I don't think we've been as excited about having a guest as we have about you.
And let's be clear, you're our second guest.
But still, and we were excited about our last guest too. But I think we've been very excited to.
Yes, I am excited. So I wanted you to come on. So we don't have a rhyme or reason about this show. It is really just a landing place. We hope it will when by the time this episode airs. We want people to feel their authentic self, their truth, and to come and just have like real conversations about race and the intersectionalities of all that is included in that. And in the spirit of that, make sure that we are doing something to dismantle myths, misconceptions, and we do it in a way that creates love and understanding and compassion. And I'm going to add like curiosity, because I think if we get curious about things, it can lead to just changing the world better. Like, changing judgment. There is a what do you call those things, Jessie, when we go to facilitate, like for coaching, and we create like an agreement, a safe space agreement or whatever. A covenant. Yes. Mm. So we create this covenant, and there's one that I use a lot that says, and change your judgment to wonder. Mm-hmm. And I love that because I've had to do that in just personal stuff, right? Like I had a 10 o'clock call this morning. My oldest decides that it would be a good day to cuss somebody out on the phone. And I said, I wonder if she knows that I'm working. Instead of just,
That is a great exercise.
I tell you, when I said that to myself, I literally saw my blood pressure. I could feel my blood pressure come down, that I didn't have to turn my camera off, go on mute, and say, I'm fucking working. I didn't have to do that.
Oh, Ray, we love you.
Yes.
Well, I love that you knew exactly which daughter it was, though.
He has worked with the diva. He has done a whole production with my diva child. But okay, so D'Angelo, we have had like informal conversations about just growing up in Black church, and I think that's a great way to introduce you. Because you just an old country soul from, so you can just talk a little bit about your background, like how you got here, like your coming out story, all of that. I'd like to hear about that.
So let me press my own record button, child, because this has never been said anywhere else.
For real, I got an exclusive.
This is. I feel special. So yeah, this is the first time I've ever. This is my first time ever vocalizing any of this. Actually, I'll start backwards. I'll start a little bit backwards and then make my way back. My coming out story doesn't truly exist. I, however, did vocalize my truth, my identity, myself, right? My identity to my mother. And it was just in 2017. Now, it's not to say that she didn't know, or, there were definitely things in high school and before, and honestly, like earliest, like 5, 6, 7, honestly, you know. And while parents may consider it, or my mother may have considered it just a phase, just something that kids do, I was very aware of who I was, and I was very aware of, let me say it like this, and I think this is, I was very aware of the pleasure that I was experiencing. And when I say pleasure, I mean just contentment and peace, and like it felt right. Like there was no judgment or guilt or shame on my end. And it just, just boys being boys,
Right.
together alone under the covers. But even then, like I knew who I was.
Now, let me ask you this. Is it because as I said that, I felt a little convicted because, and I'm not gay, but it's starting to bother me a little bit that there has to be this coming out of some sorts, right? Like Stranger Things actor just came out,
Yeah.
and I'm like, when are we going to be able to just normalize people just living their life?
Well,
Like,
it's because that won't ever happen until we allow children to be fully human, right?
come on now.
Because the reality is, if you deny, and that's, a lot of people my age and people that I grew up with that are now a part of, the LGBTQ plus community, we had awareness of ourselves. And I don't think it's any different from anyone else's awareness of self, but our awareness was a little different from the other people's awareness. So we were told that we were wrong. This wasn't you, you're lying. This isn't right. This isn't you. This is they needed to blame it on someone. We'll never be able to get rid of the need for coming out stories until we remove the devil from the equation of identity when it comes to something that's not heterosexual or not, quote unquote, normal. And, it really, it pains me to, to see, because the reality is, and this might take the conversation a little deeper, maybe, but if we were ever to affirm children in their full self, the need for labels and identities may actually dissipate. Right? I think we're in a space now where, because so much of the world has been radically normalized, we now have to do something, considerably radical to change the way the world is shifting. I think the next change or the next shift will be the opposite way around. Right now we have identities out the wazoo. I think the next shift is actually the removing and the stripping down, and possibly where we actually remember that we're human. Maybe
Right.
just maybe.
Right. Maybe just maybe.
Maybe just maybe we'll tackle our humanity opposed to society and culture, which is really the crux of all of this.
So you not coming out to your mother officially, or just like making the statement, I am gay, to your mom just 6 years ago, was that a conscious decision?
It was a conscious decision. It was a conscious decision because I had just launched myself into yet another esoteric, just this really ethereal, life-changing, journey. And that was a part of, I was needing to own my identity in a different way than I had done so before. And really being able to now lead with myself, and to the point that you just made, I simply want to be. I have always simply wanted to be. I've never wanted to be ogled. I've never wanted to be fondled. I've never wanted to be objectified. I'm a proud nudist. I dislike clothes with the utmost disrespect. And you go to my IG, or even, scroll back far enough in my Facebook, you'll see, bits in bits, you know what I'm saying? And it's just because that's my organic space. That's my organic flavor. Right. Unfortunately, that's not how the world is. And, there's a lot that comes with standing in that truth. And so I want my life to be as organic as possible. That's where I find flow. That's where I find freedom. Conversing to the world around me, that's how I find flow. And so I needed to be able to post what I wanted to post online without my mother or my family being cuckoo crazy about it. Mm-hmm. And so I needed to say that, because at that time, and a few years before that, I was executive pastor of an affirming church in North Carolina, where none of my family had ever been. My mother had never been up there. My pastor was married to his husband. Okay. I planned a lot of their wedding. We led a church of straight, gay, and trans people. And I did that for 7 years. And of that 7 years, my family was not a part of that. That was the first time my first time preaching was in that church. There was only one person connected to me that was there that night. None of those people were family members.
So let me ask you this, D'Angelo, because I know you were raised in the church, but you wasn't raised in an affirming church. And so how did you reconcile what you were being taught as a child in the pulpit to then turn around and be like, this is not how I see God?
Funny that you asked. So there has never truly needed to be reconciliation in my life concerning my sexuality or of others. That is because, and this is my blessing, I have always had high self-esteem. Okay. And I was so set, and let me not say set, because, growth happens, but I was so aware of the soul I possessed. Right. And I was so aware of the world that was around me. I tell people all the time, like, my mother was my first project. Right. When I recognized, like, I was a sensitive child, and now I know that sensitivity had something just to do with me being connected to self and connected to source, and being able to then see myself as self, which then allowed me to see others as who they were. I saw my mother was hurting. I saw that, she was a single mother, raised in a little boy in the 80s, right? When churches shunned single mothers and put them in the back of the church and all that kind of stuff. And she was growing. She was 20 when she had me. And I remember my mother being my first project. All that to say, I've always been okay with who I was. I knew I was different. I was told I was different. And because I spent copious amounts of time alone by myself, talking to myself, soothing myself, comforting myself, questioning myself gave me answers. And from a very early age, I was very sure and very comfortable in my own skin. And so getting to the place where I'm now executive pastor of an affirming church, now that was an accident. I did not mean to do that at all. That was not my plan. I was not going to that church. I was helping the pastor build the church. I love strategy. I love solving problems. I love solutions. We met on Facebook, had a few conversations. He told me about the plan that he was embarking on. And I was like, love that, right? This is after a 7-year stint in Florida where I was music everything. And I was working at a church full time for about 5 years, consulting with other ministries over 2 years. And then now, yeah, heck yeah. Like at this point, hearing that there's, a Black gay man in North Carolina that's wanting to start a church that affirms people like me, yes, 100%. I don't care, I almost don't care about your theology. That's a different conversation for a different day. But the fact that you just want to start this, yes, I am 100% behind this. What you need to know, because I have been studying how to build churches and ministries for the past 5, 6, 7 years under one of the largest ministries in Daytona Beach, Florida. So I got the goods, I got the information, okay? I take copious notes in all the staff meetings, okay? So what we need to do, he went ghost on me, okay? Mm-hmm. He went ghost for 4 months. Did not hear from him. And then when we finally, reconnected, everything went into hyperdrive. I helped him build it. And on my way going to North Carolina, there was something that intercepted me. I was going to another church because that's the church that I wanted to go to. But I got caught. And it affirmed me and it established me, and really gave me a freedom that I had never truly experienced with other people before. I had always known God was fine with me by myself, but it was now very different to be in a space where now I'm learning that everybody's not as sure of themselves or their God like I am. And now that pulled me, it pulled the stuff that I had in me out of me. And, again, luckily I was under some great teaching and some great leadership while I was in Florida. I want to say that I've always been, I've always had, leadership qualities and traits. So it wasn't foreign to me to lead. It wasn't foreign to me to consult or console or advise or whatever. That's just who I am. And so, and I like building, I find the beauty in life just in general. And so this was life. This was beauty. This was something that was not being done. Now, people don't know, but there are several affirming churches in North Carolina. And they've been there for maybe like a decade or so. And now maybe even like a decade and a half, like 15 years. Like there are affirming churches a lot of places. I only knew of the one here in Atlanta, the Vision Church. That's the only one that I had ever known of. But then to find out that there's satellites in just different places around the country that are making space. Shouts out to the UCC. Mm-hmm. Shout out to the UCC. That was the first denomination that I learned of that not only supported the LGBT plus community, but also had leaders and elders and pastors and priests. And so, I mean, married, living with their spouse and loving on them after church and holding hands during service. That was one of my phrases is freedom begins in the body. And there is something very visceral about being able to hold the hand of someone that you love in a sacred space that's shared with the public without the threat of violence of any kind. And, all that to say, all of that really coupled together, that was all my reconciliation, right? So getting there wasn't, I wanted this norm. I wanted to make this normal. Honestly, I still do. But just who I was, I think I was prepared, or I had been prepared for that space, and it allowed me to work alongside, my senior pastor and help him, build what we were building until it was time to move on to something else.
Nice.
Y'all gonna have to stop me because I talk about it.
No, Jesse, you have any questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, what does it look like to lead from a pastoral perspective as somebody who has always been aware of who their God is and how their God feels about them and how you feel about yourself, and then walking into a space that people don't recognize themselves in that way, that don't recognize God has always been, yes, absolutely, I love you. You were created in my image, and you should love yourself for whatever reason, family trauma, church trauma, whatever. Like, what does it look like to lead in that space for you?
Honestly, it's tiring.
Yeah.
It's absolutely exhausting, only because, and this, I think this is, and Sean, we were talking about this earlier, but this is why I think everything I've done has brought me to this particular moment. And this is kind of like my moment of flow where things just feel like they're in the right place, just because it like it was exhausting, but it was definitely highly rewarding to see people come in with this very traditional Southern Bible Belt, Black Baptist, Kojic, whatever background they were coming from. It was hard to see them come in there and not recognize the fact that God has their back and has always had their back because of who they were, right? Compared to, in spite of who you are, which is how most denominations and most theology teaches, us about worth. In spite of yourself, God loves you. No, because of who you are, He loves you, right? But we can't teach from that perspective, because if we do, that means we have to wrap up all your sin, quote unquote, and all your isms and all your flaws in that. And that's bad for business, right? Because if you believe that God loves all that, then there's no reason for you to pray, which means you don't have to come to Bible study on Wednesday. You don't have to give in the second offering, because we don't need a second building. You don't have to bring your kids here, because they're good how they are. You don't have to join with the singles or the marriage ministry, because the Lord loves you if you want to fornicate around and go to good. That is bad for business if we wrap people's humanity in God's love. So we can't teach from that, because that removes the need for the veil, which per the Bible, per the text, came down a while ago. But for some reason, there's still an ecclesiastical or a leadership need for this veil between people and God. And I think that was the hardest part about it. It really wasn't even teaching the text or getting people to be curious about what they were taught. It was really busting through the veil that leaders had placed in front of them, while they knew and learned and heard that the veil was torn and that there should be open space to God. Like, I shouldn't have to, go through all the pomp and circumstance to get a blessing. I shouldn't have to go through all this stuff to get a prayer through. But because they knew what they knew, but they were told what they were told. And the reality is, more people believe very deeply in God than the world would care to believe.
But what is the response to someone that says, well, if God loves all of me, why should I pray? Why should what is your response to all of that? Because
what would like if we did say because of who you are, rather?
Yeah, because of who you are.
Yeah.
Like for me, because of who I am, like I don't know, like I guess the way I look at my faith is very it's like all connected. Like I don't pray to God or put my trust in Jesus because out of this idea that it's more so of like because I just love God.
But
Like I just want to have a relationship with God.
But to be told that because you are who you are, that relationship is already torn and your soul is already damned to hell. That's a different upbringing. That's a different conditioning.
Yeah.
So you have people who were told that no matter who they were or no matter how hard they prayed, if you do this thing, if you live this way, if you have this thought, you, my dear, alphabet soup member, are going to hell. Like if you don't go and have sex, if I didn't go and have sex with a woman and have a child and go to a church and get married, I am going to hell. Like that was told to me several times. Okay. Why do I need some performative measure for you, okay, to know and believe that God loves me? Now, I think to answer the question, that would then make faith a choice.
It's not a choice.
Not the way that we're told, not the way that we're taught.
I thought it was. Wait a minute.
No, Shawnee.
It's an invitation.
You're right. It is an invitation, but if you choose to deny that, what happens?
Fair. That's fair. That's a fair point. It's a veiled choice.
It's a veiled choice.
Yeah.
The red or the blue gets you into the matrix. It don't really matter which pill you take. You're going one way. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if
it's all
and then to make it a choice for everybody, because then you mentioned the word curious. Curious and Christianity do not go together. It can't. It can't. If we ever allowed ourselves to get curious about Christianity or the way that we lead or the way that we've been taught, again, it's bad for business.
Yeah.
It's still bad for business. It really used to be because, that's why the whole intellectual echelon, and it became a class thing. Now, and I don't hate to say it, but I hate to say it, religion nowadays, it's politics. Mm-hmm. It's straight politics. And at the end of the day, if we stripped everything away, it's still politics. That's it. That's all if you are charismatic enough and you are if you are a naturally great speaker and you can put a suit on or put some pumps on, and depending on the pulpit, whether or not you even are allowed there, you can go and start and have a church. You can go and call somebody else out for being sinful while still living in whatever mess you're living in. Like the way that religion, and this is why, I used to tell people, I love God because I learned him for myself, right? I was taught something, but I know emphatically at age 12, I decided to not go to sleep during the sermon. I was like, I think I want to hear like what's happening here, because we had those pews and they had little round edge, and it fit right in the back of my neck. The way my head is positioned and shaped, it just fit right in my neck. And so going to sleep during the sermon was a breeze. It was easy. It was like memory foam. It was wood, but it was I just loved it. Beautiful nap, 45 minutes, couldn't be better, right? So I chose to, at the age of 12, like going into 13, to actually listen. And I recognized that I didn't know what my pastor was talking about. He had escalated in age, and while he was talked about for being an amazing preacher, he was well known in our city. But by the time I was aware and interested, it was really like reading the Bible. Like literally a lot of his sermons at that time, he was literally just reading the Bible. And so I had to deepen my own introspective work and now kind of focus it intentionally on learning more about what the Bible said and really becoming more interested in the stories and really finding out how that connected to me, because I already possessed those introspective skills myself. So I was able to do that. I'm the kid who liked the encyclopedia, right? So, getting information and making it work for myself was always, again, a blessing and a skill of mine. So but again, everybody don't care. Everybody don't have the bandwidth for that,
Right.
And so leading people who had only known what they were taught. They weren't taught to be curious about God. Most Black people are not taught to be curious about God. We're also not, we're really not taught to be curious about the Bible. The Bible says what it says. I believe the word, and the word is, and that is perfectly fine. If you believe it, then follow it. And if you're not, you're a hypocrite. And if that's okay, say that that's okay. But don't stand on the fact that that you're something, and because someone else's thing looks a little different than yours, again, it's two different conditionings. And we really have not been given, and still have not been given, a fair shot at Jesus.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, we as in the Black community, or universal?
I forgot about that, Jesse. Oh God. Oh Lord. I forgot about that part. Let's talk about the gays. But yes, that too. We have all marginalized people, and I'll say that all marginalized people who have had to assimilate to Christianity, none of us have gotten a fair shot at Jesus. We've not gotten a fair shot at Christianity, because it was white when it was created. It was for the whites, it was by the whites, and it was only to push the whites in the white agenda. And honestly, not even the white agenda, the white rich, the white upper echelon. It was a first class situation. And when we get to the crux of everything in whatever denomination, it is still about class. It is still about who can we donate
Don't
money
censor
to,
yourself. Yeah.
right? That we can feel good about ourselves for helping, right? No, you got 7 single mothers in your congregation. And to be fair, a lot of churches do this now, but it's more of a recent thing, right? After you've come from the decades and decades of sex shaming, right? The women, obviously, because it's not a sin for a man to have a child at the young age, right? Because clearly that's the one thing you want to remember from the Bible. But the fact that women actually have to carry the child and bring it to term, which is a totally, completely different conversation. But, now coming to this place, to be told that on the Black side, to be told in the Black side that this is your only way to salvation, like this is the only chance you get. This is the only chance you get. And this is the book that gets you there, right? If you can't read the book, you can't really get there, can you? So we had to create our own things. We had to create our own ways. We had to, tap into whatever history we remembered from the places that we were stolen from, right? LGBT in the plus on that side. Oh, you're going to hell. Just don't even come. Unless you're coming over, right? Unless you're going to renounce everything about who you say you are. That is the only way you even get to come to the starting line. You don't even get a piece on the Monopoly board. You might be able to open the box and pass out the money, but that's about it. You don't even get to play the game. And it's that's where Courageous Rebel comes from, honestly. It's the strength of my heart, really being heart-centered and being okay with that in a world that is anti-heart, anti-human.
Yeah.
Right? That is rebellion. Right. And it's not always a show of physical strength. Right. I post my ass on social media so that people at some point in time just be like, oh, that's just D'Angelo. Yes, that's me. At some point in time, I don't want you to flatter me and be enamored, but don't be surprised that my vulnerability, what am I trying to say? I want people to release their own shame so that they stop making me feel ashamed for what I don't feel ashamed for.
Yeah. Yeah. As I'm talking to you, like I just found another dynamic of why I love you, right? And so I keep thinking, I think this might be my 2023 mantra of we can't even begin to talk about loving your neighbor until you love yourself, right? Because that's what Jesus told us. Love your neighbor as yourself.
As yourself.
As yourself. And so when we see violence against trans people, when we see violence against Black youth, and we just see violence just all across the board, it goes back to people not loving themselves enough. And you appear to be the epitome of self-love. Like, I mean, I think it's beyond the having great self-esteem, because, my childhood friends always joke and pay homage to my mom because I had self-esteem. Like there was no lack of self-esteem. Patricia raised me and was like, child, you can fly. These imaginary wings. Like, I mean, so I never felt anything but I can, right? I never felt right. But I think even growing up and life can life, right? You find yourself like when that, because I don't look at it as like having a big ego. I just think it's just like really great confidence, right? When I dimmed my light a lot in my 20s and 30s, right? Just to fit in. And I really noticed it a lot after 2006 when my mom passed, how much I dim my light just for community.
Yeah.
Because the community that I knew where I could be my full self was gone. Right. And so I came back to myself like April of last year, where I was like, I'm done. I don't know who she was. I'm not going to beat her up too much because, I mean, she was there and I was in survival mode, right? It was all about surviving, right? But I really want to get out of that mode. I'm going to land this thought because I feel like I'm rambling. But I really want to talk as we close out, D'Angelo. It's like, there are going to be people listening that's going to say, I want this confidence that, like, I don't want to post nudies on Instagram, but I want to feel like I could if I wanted to, right?
Yeah.
I want to have that boldness of who I am if I wanted to, right? Like, how do you get that?
Space and grace, baby. Space and grace.
I love it.
One of the things that I tell my clients, like, often, you know what you know, and there's no changing that. All right. So whatever decision was made when you knew what you knew, you made that decision because you knew what you knew. Oftentimes, and not even oftentimes, unfortunately, we're conditioned from a very early age to betray ourselves. Right? We're conditioned to have thoughts and then not believe them. And we're conditioned to, imagine things and then have somebody tell us, oh, you didn't see that. Well, my eyes say differently. Yeah, and a lot of us aren't as sure of ourselves as other people, and we will take their word over ours for whatever the reason is. But we have to recognize that, again, going back to humanity, we're human. We are flawed. Like there is no day that will go that a human will not human. Right? We evolve, we grow, we decay. we regenerate and we start the process over. Like that is like we're changing all the time. And I think we need to give ourselves the space and the grace to change. We don't really do that. We hold so fast to these pillars of perception, or these pillars of identity, be it familial, be it from friends, be it professional. We really harp on positions a lot, and I would really just admonish more people to work on themselves more than they build their own positions, because at the end of the day, influencers did not exist 5 years ago the way that they exist right now.
Right.
That was a position that was created because of the times that we're in. Positions will change, people don't, not in that sense. And even when we do change, guess what? We're still people, right? We're still people. And it's like, if we ever got to a place where we invested as much into ourselves, and this is kind of the thing that I say that kind of shakes up a little some of the Jesus conversations, but if we ever were to give ourselves the same credit we give God, things would change in this world. Our worlds would change if we believed in ourselves, even a third as much as we believe in God. Right? We want to ascribe all power to Him. Please do. Yes. But guess what? God did His work. That work is complete. There's nothing else for God. There's nothing else for God to do. But guess what? You are still breathing. You're still moving. You still have stuff to do. So, we can. I want people to believe in God and believe in themselves, and I think that was my blessing. That was my blessing. I don't believe that. I said my insecurities exist because I have to step outside my house every day, right? That's why my insecurity, by myself, I am fine. I am fine within myself. Now, I need community, yes, right? That's where the problems start. But people, we work through our problems, but even if that, like you said, if we were open enough to really see ourselves for who we are, we would then share that same grace and that space with other people. And that's why I fight for it so hard. I was thinking about that yesterday. I fight to give people space and grace, and to really shower them with compassion, because so often I don't feel that I receive that. Right?
Yeah.
And I know it's radical, because the world that we live in, deems it to be soft and sensitive and feminine and all this stuff. But it's there's a reason why children come through the birth canal and not the male canal. There's a reason that happens, and people serve their purpose. And I really believe, there are just some things that we have to drop a lot of the stereotypes that are connected to these positions, and really just get back to humanity. And if we ever can get there, I'm not saying that we'll be a perfect union, right? But I do believe that the way hate rests in this world, I think it only rests there because we keep dehumanizing people. Right?
Yes. And then there's like this fear, like I think about all of the things that we fight every day. And I'm like, why does that matter to me? Why should I care about that?
Why should I care? If I'm secure in the life that I have, and that's why I think divesting from these positions are going to be, it's the best thing for everybody. Right. A lot of social media memes and economists and all these other, the trans movement is a beautiful thing, because it is showing us that the world has never been normal. Right. It's never been normal. And it gives us a glimpse of what it could, it gives us a glimpse of what choice can be. And when I say choice, I mean getting up today and choosing to say, this is what I am today. This is who I am today. This is who you will learn and know and love compared to yesterday. Don't govern me by yesterday me, because I'm not governing me by yesterday me.
Right.
If I show up today as me, then that's who you're going to get today. If I continue to do that, then, and if I decide to change in 5 more years, guess what? That's my choice. That's a choice that I make. Agency is important. And I agency is important. Agency. And I think it's apropos that most of the ills in this world right now, most of what the world news is combating agency. Most of the world news, from coast to coast, continent to continent, we are seeing people battling agency. People want their individual freedoms. They want to divest. But
and it sounds so easy, right? That we could just give people their agency. I was getting ready to share this, like I had this conversation with someone over like this argument, because I was getting very frustrated with this person kept referring to Laverne Cox as a male. And to the point where like you would have thought that me and Laverne go back. like I knew her, right? Because I'm like, just because you found this out about her, that she's a trans woman, now all of a sudden she's not woman enough for you. Like, I just don't understand where. And so then, of course, because they think that because I identify as a Christian, that I'm going to go Bible with them. And I don't go Bible with them. I'm not debate. I'm like, but that's your belief, right? That is your belief. So why are we taking what you believe and applying it to this woman? Now, I don't even know. I mean, Laverne Cox could very well be Christian. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. Like, it matters not what she believes. That's who she is. And I said, we either going to have to end this conversation because you keep misgendering her, or we just going to have to change the subject, because I'm getting very frustrated that, like, because you don't know and you're not fully aware and you have insecurities, that it's now affecting a woman that's not even checking for you
at all.
Don't even know you.
What do you gain from this storyline? What exactly? And what I came to was, it continues their denial, right? That's the hardest thing about learning truth, is grieving or mourning the life that you were living. And I think there are a lot of people, not all of them, but there are a lot of people who are angry. I wouldn't even dare give them the title of transphobic or homophobic. I truly believe that they are simply angry that they bought into the system. And now they've lived long enough to see people like live and thrive, and they're not in hell, and they're making money, and they're making more money than you. Okay, right. and they're doing it in front of your face, and they're doing it in front of the faces of the world, and in front of millions, and they're just mad. And I would be too, if I questioned life at one point. I questioned my mother. I said, "Mama, why do you still go here?" About our home church. Or I asked, like, have you thought about leaving? Right. And she's like, yeah. It's one of the first real adult Christian conversations I had with my mother. Right. But her response was to the effect of, that was the home church. That's where we went. So, she might have her problems with, but, she'll give it some time. And if, things clear up or work out, then she'll keep going, and she's still there. But I was like, yeah, no, I'm I would go. So at one point in time, closer to the end of high school, I would go to Sunday school or start the service off at my church, and have my other friend pick me up on his way to his service that started at 1 o'clock. And that's where I was introduced to tongues. Oh God, blessed Savior. Okay. I got my ya one day, and that was, we were off to the races. But it happened in that church, and then I came back to my church, and I was like, this is not gonna work. Oh no, I don't. Oh no. Well, okay, so go back there, get some more, come back here. Oh no, what's going on? Oh Lord, you missed a moment. Oh, we were supposed to, and just learning so much and being exposed and opening myself up to spirit. I mean, that's really what it is, just really being exposed and expanding yourself to really just the awareness of God just all around us. And it was just, it was a little disheartening to hear that, she had questions. She was curious.
Mm-hmm.
But it really wasn't just instilled in this area to search and to seek and to, and expand. And it's like, well, we do it with school. Like, why do we commit ourselves for a lifetime to a church under one teacher, not even truly knowing what this person, is living, right? We just know what they give us on the weekends and maybe, a couple of times during the week. But it's like, again, it's that, like, I love that you said that, but curiosity, I'm a curious person, and I'm curious about curiosity, and I'm curious about the things that I've become curious about. And so, I want to know. I am a seeker of knowledge. I am a seeker of truth. And a lot of other people out there are. It's the permission, self-permission. I think is what we lack, right? Just to kind of giving your own self the go ahead, instead of having to, pray to, like, Lord, is this your will? Are you leading me the right way? Well, is he leading you the right way? Like, is that how you want to word that question? Like, am I hearing you properly? I mean, that's a better question, And if you know what you know, and you are comfortable with the voice that you're hearing, it's always talking. God never stops speaking. People have tattoos of commas because they never stop speaking. I mean, it's a thing, and it's like, again, it's that agency, really being able to stand in who I am and believe that I am connected. I am a connection of source. I'm connected to source. I'm related to source. And if that's the case, if I can believe that, then I can believe the thought that I have about going to the store, right? And if I can believe the thought that I have about going to the store because I need some eggs, I can believe the thought that I have about moving to Florida, or moving to Philadelphia, or moving to North Carolina, or moving to Atlanta, or wherever I believe I need to be free and to be myself. But it's that self-permission of the space and grace, and really just being able to give yourself that because you need it, right? You don't have to question, you don't ask nobody if you need space. If you need space, you take your space.
Right.
But again, that's the conditioning of betraying ourselves and becoming so foreign with the voice within us that we then have to rely on everybody else around us.
Thank you, D'Angelo. This has been amazing.
Thank you, Johnny.
So I want to close out. So we're bringing this new segment. I know everybody does it, but I was like, between Jesse and I, we could come up with like really good questions. So, Jesse, can you time us? So it's going to be 60 seconds, as many questions as I can answer. Rapid fire, D'Angelo, okay?
Okay, let's go.
All right. What gives you hope?
Me?
Go-to beverage?
Tequila.
Favorite streaming platform?
Oh.
Don't think, just answer.
HBO Max. No. Y'all don't get that. Y'all will not get that. Your thing is horrible. Disney Plus.
Concert or comedy show?
Comedy show.
Top 5 in your Spotify or Apple Music.
Beyonce and a whole bunch of African names that I cannot pronounce.
Last book you read.
I feel bad for this. What's the last book I read? I don't remember. Oh, The Alchemist. Oh.
2023 goal.
Make people know who I am.
What does love mean to you?
Love means experiencing my faults and moving about your day.
Thank you. That's all I had. How many seconds did I have left?
I stopped you at 103 because I thought that what does love mean to you? We should ask everybody that. So I was
that probably should be the one.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I'm going to end. Yes, I should probably start with that next time, right, Jesse?
Always end. Always
end with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
If I knew that was going to be the last one, I would have given a better answer, but I'm okay with that one.
You got to give the answer that comes first in your mind.
I'm good with that one. Yeah. See, experiencing my flaws and keep it moving, because I will. Okay. I'm going to do that.
The Embracing Race podcast, hosted by elders Shawnee McCoy and Jesse Littlejohn, tackles all topics from pop culture to faith and the intersectionality of white supremacy and racism. Nothing is off limits, as we hope to educate and transform with radical love. For more information, visit us at embracingrace.online or on Instagram at embracing_race_podcast. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, or if you would like to submit a comment or question, please email embracingracepodcast@gmail.com. We are thankful for those who have sponsored the Embracing Race podcast. Shout out to the following groups and people. Gen Out. The Gen Out Youth Chorus. Gen Out is an outreach ensemble of the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C. Gen Out's mission is to give young LGBTQ+ and allied youth a voice to connect to the community. The ensemble is open to all singers between the ages of 13 and 18. Please visit www.gmcw.org for more information. Interwoven Congregations. Isn't it our hope that we would all come together as a society across the chasm of race and become the beloved community that Dr. King imagined? Interwoven Congregations' mission is to organize and support partnerships between faith communities with different racial compositions in order to foster racial justice and healing. For more information, please visit www.interwovencongregations.org. HOD Records. HOD Records is a talent and artist development company that specializes in artistry development and content creation. Serving the DMV and beyond, HOD creates a family-centered management style that promotes a collaborative spirit. Check out HOD Records on all social media platforms and visit hodrecords.media for more information. If you would like to be a sponsor of the Embracing Race podcast, please email embracingracepodcast@gmail.com.